Felicia, you got the medals?
Felicia's having a day like me.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Poor Jenny's car. She had barely got here.
And then in the meantime, I dropped my watch trying to get it and busted my watch. Trying to get my car jumped.
Bless your heart.
Sad.
See if we get y'all ready. We're gonna move it up to 75.50 for me.
Oh, wow. What are they at now? 50? 75? Wow. 50 cents. Phew.
Right.
I got mine.
Oh, yeah.
So she went,
Yeah,
what
you
are you gonna do? Just say, well, we
You know I'm
can
a
give them a
nerd.
medal, because I ain't got nowhere to put it.
Would you get 2.5 over? We'll get you good.
I have 0.
Did you get one look just like this?
Yeah, is that what yours says, 0? Yeah.
You know, there's a Law and Finance Institute coming up.
Hey, wait, you're on the state school board now. There's
Yeah.
one thing you need to fix.
You want me to fix it?
This is crap. And Rhonda,
I'm one vote of how many?
I know, but now let me tell you something. I'm very seriously thinking about not running because of this, because I don't have to go if I don't run.
But
Well, see, the problem is that
But
is
when
all,
you take-
it's all legislative.
Yeah.
And then KSBA is the people that does the
they
training.
just, yeah.
It's a money gimmick for them because the first year I went, I learned a lot. The second year, I learned a little. The third year was the same crap over and over.
And it shouldn't be.
If it's something different, I'd be good with it.
That's been my third. And it's been the same.
It's the same.
Eyes on.
Sometimes you listen to the
Eyes
same
on.
meetings
Eyes on.
with the same
Oh, it's on.
instructors,
We're ready to go.
and that's ridiculous.
I'm calling the meeting to order.
No, I'm fussing. I'm gonna
You're on camera.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
I want everybody here.
Welcome. I'm glad everybody could be here tonight. And I'm sorry I was late. I was actually supporting our high school softball team. It's senior night, so appreciate you all being here. And if I could ask Noah Williams, would you care to come up and lead us in the pledge? Stand right there. Just right there. Stop. Right in the center. That's good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Noah. Do we have any revisions?
We have one revision under H, is a KEDC grant application approval. And after reviewing those, I felt like they needed to come before the board, just for your all's approval. Any grant should.
Okay. And just a reminder, we do have a sign-in if you'd like to sign in up front. Okay, we will start off tonight with our staff recognitions, and we will start with the mountain movers.
Okay. Well, I want to start off with our community mountain mover, and I know Richard Snowden was supposed to be here. Do we have somebody else here to represent Kiwanis? Come on, Myra. As you know, we moved to start recognizing different community members for their donation of their time, their support of our school system, and we decided this month that because of the nomination process that we're going to recognize a group, and that's our Kiwanis group. And as you know, the pledge of the Kiwanis is that we're changing the world one community and one child at a time. And that is a true mission and vision of the Kiwanis. And just listen to some of the things that the Kiwanis does for our school children. Of course, we have Kiwanis Park, where all of our Little League ball games are played at. Christmas for Kids, Boy and Girl Scouts, the Elizabeth Witt Party, the Kiwanis Christmas Parade, Mountain Mushroom 5K Run, the Relay for Life, Ministerial Association, school clubs, school mentoring programs, preschool children's reading program, emergency disaster relief, 4-H club, public library summer reading, hospice, Revive River Drive, helped in establishing the hospital when it was first established, and they also helped in establishing the Estill County Fair. And just think about how each of those different activities play in our lives each and every day here in this school system, not just in the school system, but in the community itself. And not only that, the Kiwanis members, I dare say that you go into our schools almost on a daily basis, you're going to find one of our Kiwanis members at one of our elementary schools that's reading to children or donating their time in terms of volunteering within our schools. So the Estill County School System today would like to recognize the Urban Ravenna Kiwanis Club, which I'm a proud member. They've not impeached me yet for lack of attendance to meetings, but I'm just happy to be a part of the Kiwanis Club, and that they would think that I was worthy to be one of their members, and we're very appreciative of the Kiwanis Club and everything they do.
Thank you. We're proud to be in the community and doing work for the children.
I'll get down here. Now for our classified mountain mover, Miss Carrie Sewell. Is Carrie not here tonight? Well, let me just a minute. Carrie is our West Urban lunchroom manager, and she's been the manager for 13 years. And she loves the little people and enjoys watching the kids come through the lunch line and try new foods and like it, she says. She loves the people she works with and says they are just like family to her. And if you've been in the lunchroom at West Urban, those girls are. They're like a big family, and I know that they're always inviting the central office to come and have lunch with them and breakfast, and I appreciate the job that they do. Carrie does a fantastic job. So she's our classified mountain mover this month. And then our certified mountain mover is Miss Shayla Carroll. And Shayla is in her second year of teaching at Mr. Beckley, if you'd come up. She's in her second year of teaching at Estill County Middle School, and Shayla says she loves teaching middle school grades because it's their make or break age. They can either go in one direction or the other, and she feels like building relationships with her students is the key to her students making it. And Shayla, we'll award you with the Medal of Excellence also for all that you do for our kids, and we're glad to have you here in Estill County. Thank you. And Myra, I didn't give you one for Kiwanis because I didn't know who'd fight over it. I mean, you know.
Okay, next we have our Governor's Scholars.
Well, Miss Niece and Miss Rhonda, if you'll come up, I'll let you all present. Of course, our Governor's Scholars. This, of course, is a very unique and distinguished program that our students, our juniors, apply for each and every year. And I was fortunate enough to have my own son be a Governor's Scholar during his time in high school, and the experience that they get to have this summer is life-changing. It really is. It's a life-changing experience for 3 weeks that they get to go and experience activities that probably they would never get to experience in any other way. And they challenge the kids to do something that they've never really done before. And I just think the Governor's Scholars Program is a fantastic program, and we're fortunate enough to have 2 different individuals here with us tonight. Our first one is Andrew Samples. And our second one is Noah Williams. If you want to, guys, you get in there and we'll get all four of you together. I think you all will agree these are two fine-looking gentlemen, and we want to recognize them also with the Medal of Excellence today for what they've done in representing Estill County High School in a wonderful way. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Estill Springs renovation / district roofing projects.
I was just trying to see, but there is nothing else on here that is not.
She's on her way, so she should.
Okay.
Right, she's on her way. I expect her any minute.
We could jump down to item 12, which is the superintendent's report, and go ahead and get that out of the way, if that's okay
Oh,
with
that's
the board, and that allows Ms. Isford to get here. If y'all are okay with that.
Oh, that's perfect.
Let me get all the way back here to this. Of course, as part of your report there, you have the monthly report of personnel actions there, and that, of course, is for your all's information only. There's no action required on any of those. Also, item number B, you do not have an attachment for it, but we have two individuals in the school system that's on MOA with KDE. We didn't put those in the packets, of course, just because of confidentiality and everything else, but those two individuals, KDE has decided that they are going to pick up those two MOAs. And I guess for those individuals, they wanted to stay, and of course I went ahead and approved it. It doesn't cost us anything for them to be there, and I guess they're pretty fortunate because this past year, I know there are probably somewhere around 24 or 30 MOA individuals that are returning to school districts because of budget cuts, but both of these individuals, I think it just speaks for the job they do, and also just they're in areas that they were able to save through federal dollars. So those two individuals have been renewed, so you'll know that. My activity report for the month, and I'll pass those down to you all. Here's one for Donna if you want to leave her one there. Those are just a few of the activities I've been involved in over the last month, and especially the last couple days. Been in Frankfurt dealing with the Career Tech School, and there'll be an update with that here in just a few minutes. And item D, end of year events. Miss Felicia tried to put those together for you all so you all would know the dates on the different items. May 25th is the last day for preschool. That's next Friday. And kindergarten graduation and Estill Springs awards and West Irvin promotion and middle school promotion are all on May the 31st. And graduation, of course, is Friday night, June the 1st. And hopefully we'll have good weather for that. The only other thing, it's not on the agenda, but I'll just add that you all have your KSBA information on your training hours, and y'all just need to pay special attention to that. There's a conference coming up here, finance conference, I believe, coming up, KSBA. There's another summer conference, and then of course there's the winter conference in December for you to pick up any hours that you need. You can also do some of this online, but the new requirement for charter schools is, quite frankly, I don't even I don't even want to get started now. So I know it's going to require some additional hours above and beyond what you're usually used to doing. So just pay careful attention to that. We can go ahead and, I guess, jump back, if it's okay with you,
Sure.
Ms. Rhonda, to go back to item number 3, because A is not an action item. It's just to talk about the 2 bids and review the bids.
Okay.
We got Roland with us tonight.
Hello.
Harry, Peter, got Mark.
Let's see, where to begin? First, let me talk about the roofing project. You guys have 2 projects here that we're going to go through, one being the roofing project that includes roofing both the Estill Springs Elementary School and the Estill County Middle School, and also the Estill Springs renovation project, okay, which is primarily taking care of the HVAC and also some other renovation items in and around the building. I'm going to start out by going through the roofing project, and we bid the project and received 6 bids on it. The apparent low bidder at the time of the bid opening was Riddle Construction, with a bid of $1,314,530. And we went back to the office and started evaluating their bid, and found where they did not meet one of our qualifications in our specifications with the roofing subcontractor that they had listed. We went to them and asked them what they wanted to do, and they do have an option under the instructions to bidders to actually replace the subcontractor, and they did so. Okay, so they changed the subcontractor of the roofing to SES Roofing. They're out of Winchester. We vetted them. They are locally known here in Estill County. They've done work here in Estill County. They've done work in Winchester. They've done work in Tennessee. They do meet the specification requirement that the original subcontractor did not. They also changed the roofing manufacturer from who they had listed to Barrage, and we also vetted that, and that checked out okay as well, right? So the changes that they made were acceptable to us. They also added $175,000 to their bid as a result of those changes, changing the subcontractor and changing the manufacturer. So that brought their total bid amount to $1,489,530. Okay, and at that point, the board does have the option to either accept the adjusted bid price, or you have the option to disqualify the bidder. Because of that, we went ahead and vetted the second lowest contractor, which is Kentuckiana General Construction. The difference between the 2 contractors, Riddle and Kentuckiana, with Riddle's modified bid amount, is $42,705. Okay, so that's what you're looking at between the first and second bidder. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't accept Riddle's bid. The roofing contractor, this is a little bit of a step up for them, okay? But I talked to the roofer, Anthony Patrick, and he's assured me that he is ready and willing to do all of this work, okay? So I think, and it's in my recommendation, I think you can go either way, and we're fine with moving forward with either contractor. It's just the price difference between the 2 is $42,000. So If you want to, you know, save the $42,000 and move forward with Riddle, you can, okay? And if you want to move forward with Kentuckiana, you can move forward with them too. So that's the roofing contract. Go
I
ahead.
think if-
Yes.
With the roofing contract, to keep down the confusion, I don't think there's anything wrong, Felicia or Jason, correct me, that let's go ahead and go to B and D, which concerns the roof, and let's put the roof to rest, and then, or the roof projects to rest, and then we can come back and discuss Estill Springs, because there's a lot of nuances going on with Estill Springs, from the original bids to a addendum and
Right.
another bid, so I don't want to confuse you all with that. So let's just consider the roofing project, and so,
This roof still come in under projected, right?
That's correct, LW. Yes, it did. It did come in under what our projected estimate was.
Even with the addition, the subcontractor substitution.
Correct.
it's right at $300,000.
Yeah, I
under
want to say it
projected
came in
cost.
about $300,000 less than what our estimate was.
And just so you all know, Anthony, of course, has done some work for us in the district in the past. I can tell you that I've spoke to him as well. I know the architects did, and I have full confidence that they're ready, willing, and able to complete this project. And so, I mean, just so you all know, and I guess we're considering item number B would be the award to contract and DPOs for the roof replacement project. My recommendation would be to this board, after working with the architect and the construction company and the subcontractor and manufacturer as well, after those phone conversations, I would recommend that we would accept Riddle's bid of $1,489,530 and award the contract to Riddle Construction.
And that takes care of A, B, and D, right?
It takes care of B, and then you'll have to have a vote to approve the BG1, which is in there as well. We'll have to revise it.
Procedurally, honestly, though, you can just continue on until someone makes a motion. So,
And if you want to award the contract and approve the revised BG1, I think is what you're saying, Jason, we can do it with one motion.
One motion.
That's fine with me if you want to do that. And that's right, LW, then we would take care of B and D both.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Now you can go back to A.
Go back. Okay.
And let me give you all the original bid tab when we opened the bids to begin with. Let me keep one. Give you all some there. If y'all want to pass those.
Sometime font.
And then I'll go ahead and give you, I sent this to y'all yesterday. This is sort of the summation of what happened after the first bid took place.
there's extras here, anybody.
The one we had in our packet was the first bid, or the one you just gave us was the first bid?
The one you had in your packet was the first bid. And then the one I just passed out to you that's in color is the rebid after the addendums came out. And then you had sort of the summation sheet that came from me, just telling you where we're at with those and just some recommendations. So, Roland, I guess.
Roland, what was our original estimation on this project?
On the renovation project?
Because I know the first bid's come back over.
Right.
Where are our second bids? What I didn't.
So the second bids are still over by a little bit, okay? Your your BG3 was at around 2.9, it was 2.9, okay, 2,905,000. So the second bid, after the post-bid addendum, is still a little bit over. The base bid,
The base,
yes, at 3,021,000 from Momentum Construction.
Roland, I guess if you want to just sort of tell them about
Yeah,
what the
just kinda
process and how
summarize
everything happened.
what happened, and okay, so so we originally bid the renovation project on May 3rd, okay, and we had basically been hearing some murmurs from general contractors that that HVAC contractors were having trouble bidding the project, that they were not wanting to bid the project, that the schedule was a little tough to meet, and to be honest with you, what we found out is the market's pretty saturated right now. Okay, there's a lot of work out there and kind of not enough contractors to go around, in short. Okay, so what we did is we relaxed the schedule by addendum. All right, which brought on 2 to 3 HVAC contractors that seemed very interested in the project. We went ahead and proceeded with the bid, and the bids came in over budget, all right, by about $957,000. So because of that, we wanted to go ahead and enter into competitive negotiations with the 3 low bidders, which was Walker Pax, Momentum, and Olympic. Okay, and you'll see you had 4 bidders on the original bid tab, but you only have to enter into competitive negotiations with the bottom 3. So that's what we did, and we ended up, myself and our design team, this is Carrie Kelty with CMTA. She's the HVAC designer and engineer on the project. We sharpened our pencils and started value engineering items out of the project. We started pulling items out of the base bid and putting them into alternates. And just to kind of summarize our overall strategy for that post-bid addendum, we value engineered items in the base bid, we revised alternates, and then we created 3 new alternates, all right? And the 3 new alternates are going to be alternates 8, 9, and 10 on that bid tab that you're looking at. So is everybody looking at the bid tab that has the 3 contractors on there?
so 8, 9, and 10 was in the base bid.
8, 9, and 10 were in the base bid, and they were taken out and put in alternates, right. Alternate 4, okay, if you want to put a check mark by that one, is technology upgrades. Those were items there were a few items that were in the base bid that we pulled out and put into that alternate. There was already an alternate there for Cat 6 cabling to be installed in the building. And this added some extra cabling, like for projectors, projector plates, some Cat 6A cabling, teachers' workstations. Okay, so those are some extra things that we pulled out, put in technology upgrades. And alternate 7 was one that we kind of pulled stuff out of the base bid and put into that alternate, and that is the security cameras and card readers. Okay, so we pulled that out and put that into an alternate. Our main goal here was to get the project base bid closer to your budget. All right. And so we bid that again on Tuesday, right? Mm-hmm. And we issued the post-bid addendum on Thursday last week, gave contractors a couple of days to look at that, and we opened bids on Tuesday. And those bids are what you're looking at here today.
So what was your goal in moving into alternates? Because the total still is, $500,000 over the original. I mean, all you did was rob Peter to pay Paul, right?
Right.
It's still gonna cost the same amount of money if you accept the alternate.
If you accept the alternates, but the alternates are a choice by the board, right?
It was basically done, LW, to allow you all to pick and choose what alternates that you may want to take. Also, when you look at the overall price of where we started at and where we ended up, I think we even saw even a lowering of the total bids as well. So, I mean, you know, in a sense, we are at a better place because they went back and resharpened their pencils, and some of the overall project, if you put them all together, has come down. So you all really have the choice to cherry pick what you want to do. You can take them all, and taking all of them is a savings from what the low bid was before we rebid.
Correct, yeah.
Because the low bid before was basically 5 million, and now it's at right at 4 million. So it's about, you knock $500,000 off the total project by doing it this way, and then you can still knock some other things off if you choose not to take some of these alternates.
But that's not comparing apples to apples in my mind. Maybe I'm not understanding this, but our original estimate was this, and this, so we take part of it out and move it over here, so we're not getting, even though our base bid's close to where it was, we're not getting what we were originally getting.
If you take all the alternates, yeah, it's the same as the original. Everything is still in the project.
Yeah, but
The money
alternate 8,
savings.
9, and 10 was in the base bid prior.
Right.
So you moved $384,000 worth of stuff out that we're not getting unless we take those alternates.
But you're still saying the overall bid is less
The
this
overall,
time.
if,
With
with
everything.
everything
It's
in it
less than the
before.
prior bid, but we're still over the original estimate.
Right.
Right, you're still over the original estimate. That is true.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah, that is true. So it's going to cost us more if we do the entire project. But if you did the entire project based on the first bid, it was going to be a total of about 4.5 million, and that's not including the soft costs. That's just construction costs.
That's correct, yeah.
So
And I
you're
see
looking
why
at,
you've done that, it gives us more alternates, but I want to be clear that we're
It's
really
about a
not
5
close
point-
to the original
Yeah.
bid, we're still
We're
$500,000
still over. Yeah, we're about, we would have been at somewhere around 5.2 to 5.3 million under the original bid by the time you'd put soft cost in with that. Now with soft cost, you're at 4.7. So you ended up, it's about $500,000 less if you take the whole thing. We are over. And just so you all know, you probably got some more questions for Roland. In our minds, when we started this process, we sort of said, we got about $6 million is what we want to spend on these two projects. So that's why I came back to you all with sort of the sheet here that dealt with the breakdown of those projects, the sheet that I sent you all, and I've got mine here somewhere.
But with all of that being said, our middle school project is under what we projected.
Right.
So it all kind of balances out, correct?
If you take everything, you're gonna be over about $500,000. It's gonna be about 6.5 million where we originally had done 6. So
So with soft cost, the roofing's about 1.75.
And that's why I had given you all this sheet, and we just sort of sat and looked at it in terms of,
So we're still spending roughly $500,000 more
if you do it all.
than if you do it.
If you do it all, and that's this sheet that I sent you all to look at yesterday. You know, we sort of we were looking at 3 BG ones here, which number 1 would be you take the base bid and alternates 2, 5, 6, 7, and 9, which puts you at approximately $4.2 million total cost, which then would put us at $6 million right on the nose. That's what we had said. Now, then if you take take BG1, which is the second case there, the base bid, and you add alternates 1 and 8 back in the project, you're going to be about $250,000, $300,000 over
About 300.
So you're gonna be at about
347.
6.3 million if you take the base bid and all 9 alternates, and you do not want to consider alternate number 10, because alternate 10 was another change in the schedule that we thought would relieve some of the concerns about the schedule. The one company thought, hey, we don't want to change in the schedule. If you do that, we're gonna charge you more. The others said it didn't change the project at all. So your other option is take the base bid and alternates 1 through 9. Now, you can take any of these. You can take the base bid and number 5 if you want to. You know, you can take any alternate you choose to do. But, and so you'll know what each one of those are, so we can just, the first one I think is, I've got so many papers here. The first one, of course, is your geothermal, and number 2 is your LED lighting. And Carrie, I think she's prepared to talk to you about, you wanted to know cost savings. What's the payback on those if you do those? And I think you're going to find out that there's some positives to doing both of those, so I think you'd want to hear from her on those 2 for sure. Item number 3 is the intercom clock system. You know, we can take that out. They've got a functioning intercom system. Just remember, it's 30 years old. So do you want to take that out? 4 is technology upgrades. What technology upgrades that we don't do, we're going to have to do anyway, so our people are going to have to do them, which is going to tie them up trying to get those upgrades done. Owner preferred hardware, that is just making sure that all the keys you have now match all the new doors that come into the building so that we don't have to rekey the whole building. Security glass. I mean, how can you say no to $20,000 for security glass for the building? It's a safety feature. Same with the security cameras and card readers in terms of limiting access to that building, security feature. Item number 8 is the parent drop-off, and if you've been at Estill Springs, you know that the parent drop-off in the back does need fixed. You can let it go if you think we can live with it. It works now, but it would be nice to have it fixed if we can afford it. The bus loop canopy, I think we will miss a great opportunity if we don't change the front of that building and the canopy and the bus loop and trying to make it more safe for our kids. And like I said, alternate number 10, you're not going to take it all. And if you want to talk to them about geothermal and LED and let them know what kind of savings you're looking at on those.
Yeah. I've got 2 reports for you to look at and kind of help describe.
I've got them. That's fine.
Okay, so the first report that we're going to look at is the HVAC system options. The first few pages kind of go over kind of overview of what the system base bid and alternate is about and the pros and cons of each of those comparisons. The real kind of looking at a life cycle cost projection is going to be the graph on the last page. So this is a chart that indicates based off of how much the system costs, first cost, and how much it to maintain and life of the system, how much it would cost to operate. So if you look at the red dashed line is what we would anticipate the boiler cooling tower, water source heat pumps, and the green is the geothermal system. So that the blue line indicates where both of those meet. That indicates at what point in time the geothermal system will start making more money and getting more money into your pockets than it would be for the boiler and cooling tower. If you took, and so that's about 2.5 years. The numbers, if you want to see the actual numbers of what we project, those are on the second to last page. Those are what we think the numbers of operation and first cost would be year 1, and then if you take the difference of those two, that's what's going to be the end-all, be-all, what you're saving. So if you look at the 25-year which we hope that the systems would both last 25 years, if you take the difference between your boiler and cooling tower number and the geothermal, that's the overall savings that you can anticipate for the life of the system. So that's kind of the comparison of those two.
And just so
Payback.
you all will know, guys, that is savings to the general fund. You're spending restricted money to do this that can only be spent on construction. And then you are saving the general fund, and if you look at that, that's about $1.6 million over a 25-year period that long after all of us is not sitting here. I hope I'm alive 25 years from now to see it replaced. And if I am, then at that point in time, this district would have saved about $1.6 million. So you can see what the value of a geothermal system compared to a normal HVAC system. That's pretty significant. I think it's like after about year two, after it's paid for, but it's immediately savings to the general fund day one.
That's correct.
So, and I think if we looked at it right, just in energy savings, it's about $40,000 per year. Is that what the chart showed?
Yes. Yeah, it's on the page before. It'll tell you how much annual energy cost savings you'll have. So that if you go to the third to last page, it'll show you what you're saving.
And give you an example, right now, our schools right now on site-based Section 6 money have been limited to $100. Usually that amount is about $140. In itself, that savings right there would allow us to put the SBDM allocation back to the suggested state amount just this coming year, and that's a savings every year to the budget. So I just wanted to point that out to you. That's just on geothermal.
Yeah, so we'll move on to LED. That's the second kind of summary page. This one is also, there's a lot of numbers in here. But the second to last page, there's a green highlighted area. So you can kind of see net cash flow when you're in the negative until you reach year 8, and that's when you start seeing positive numbers. So that's your payback, when you're starting to see a payback for having LED lighting. The reason why this one is going to take longer than a geothermal system is we already have lights in the building that are already existing there. So not only are you paying for or having the utility cost savings, but you also have to be able to account for the fixture that you're replacing. So that's the only reason why this doesn't have a shorter payback period of time, but it still presents a savings after 8 years.
So I know that's something you'd asked for, LW, and wanted to see. Roland, anything else you'd like to add about any of the alternates or anything?
I don't think so. I think you touched on everything pretty well. Obviously, alternate 10, I don't think you all should consider at all. The geothermal and LED lighting are going to be things that you're going to pay up front for. But again, like Jeff pointed out, you're spending monies that can only be spent on construction, and it's going to impact your general fund as far as dollars coming back to you in lower utility costs, right? So I think that's a big positive that the board needs to consider. The preferred hardware, I think you have to go with as well. Alternate 5 you need to take, because the new doors that we're putting in the administration suite, you want that hardware and the keys to match the existing hardware. You don't want everybody having to run around with a separate set of keys for these special doors. It's hard to choose, because you want to upgrade the building you want to upgrade the building for the students, you know? I mean, you know that the technology upgrades are a plus. You know the security upgrades are a plus as far as student safety, with the security cameras and the card readers on all the exterior doors. So that we're kind of getting rid of all these duplicate keys that are out there and providing card readers that are assigned to teachers that can be activated and deactivated as needed. Or, you know, temporary keys given out if someone's going to use the gym maybe, you know, over the weekend or something. The parent drop-off improvements, again, I think that's a tough one. I mean, you're talking about, you know, a safer drop-off location for the students, one that's more efficient. You know, a better canopy, and the front entrance, you know, where that's the face of the building. I mean, that's kind of the side of the building that faces the road that everybody's looking at. And it's just nice for, I think, the community driving by to be able to see a change in the building that they can recognize for their investment, you know, in the facility. So.
Do y'all have any other questions? I can make a recommendation whenever y'all.
On this, I do, on this BG1 for this project, what, on the total construction cost and all this, what alternates are included in this? Because I see the total construction cost $3.529 million. And none of these, what does that include?
Sure. Hold on just a second.
I don't see anything that's matching up quickly.
It's on this
Right.
sheet here, LW. The sheet that I put together, it wasn't quite the 1, 2, and 3. You've got 3 BG1s in front of you there that I just gave you. The top one is taking alternates 2, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
So this is the top one.
That's the top one, and the middle one at $3.8 million for total construction costs is adding alternates 1 and 8 to that.
Okay, I see it now.
And then number 3 is adding all the alternates. So the reason for the first one was at $4.2 million for total construction, that puts us at our $6 million number we come with to begin with. And then after we got to looking, I said, you know, it's really hard not to do geothermal. You know, after we saw this payback, we originally thought LED lighting would be the biggest payback and the quickest, for the quickest amount of time. And then when they put the numbers to the paper and started figuring, we saw real quick, well, geothermal's the biggest payback. So you hate to leave that one sitting on the table, and you hate to leave that parent drop-off in the back looking like it is. So I said, okay, that puts us over about $300,000. And then finally I said, do we really want to sit here and haggle over $500,000 when we can fix that building, complete it all now, and go away from, in the history of this school district, it's not been because the board didn't want to do something, it's because you didn't have the money to do something. You had to do it in phases. And I can tell you right now, if you come back and try to do those technology upgrades and let Jeremy and them do it, we won't get the same thing, and it'll cost us a whole lot more money. And if you come back later and try to do the intercom system, it's going to cost you a whole lot more money to wire it and go on. And the money is going to be there. That's what the people supported the nickel for. They wanted to see the school changed. So I would not recommend the first BG1, which is number 1. I would go no lower than number 2, but my recommendation to you all is that we complete the building, then it's done for 25 years, and nobody else has to worry about it sitting on this board for the next 25 years. It's completed.
What's the technology upgrades that need done? I mean,
Right now, the cable in there will not support some of the things that's coming down the pike. It's old cabling. It's been there for a long time, so the cabling itself was the biggest portion of that. I think if you looked at it in the original bid LW before they pulled anything out of it.
Something about
Was almost somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000. Momentum's originally thing was 45. So then, you know, the wiring, the ceilings are coming down, so some of the wiring for the LED, or not the LED boards, but the active boards and those types of things has to
I
now
mean,
be replaced.
I guess the question I have, before we redid this, what did we add? Because alternate 4, which is recabled to category 6, I guess is what that means, went from 44,000 to 102,000.
Right.
What was that you pulled out, guys?
And I'm sorry, I don't understand all this, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to compare this
I
to
know.
this, and the numbers are.
Well, you all not
I
had the
understand.
same amount of time on this one that you had on the roof project because it just finished up on Tuesday. So I knew this one would take longer to discuss and make a good decision on, so they can tell you what else they pulled out.
Go ahead. Okay, so the Cat 6, so the Cat 6 cabling's about the $45,000 number there, and that was to run all new wiring in the elementary school. I'm looking back at Jeremy because we worked with him on this alternate.
And I can add on to that real quick. The existing cabling that's in there is called Cat 5. And if you don't know anything about grading of cable, the higher you get, the more speed you get. And right now, we're featuring a bottleneck in terms of the ability to send data through any of our networking cables. And then we're going to have to be upgrading the telephony system. At any point in time, if our BCM, which is what controls all of the telephones in the entire district, if it goes down, we are completely 100% down in terms of telephony. So one of our overall long-term goals is to upgrade the telephone system, but to do that, we have to have a higher quality cable in the building. And if we don't do that, then when we are forced to go to the new telephone system, that building will not be able to handle the telephony system that we end up having to go with. You can't go and get an older telephone system to go in with. And then as we upgrade any of the other technologies, like he was talking about with the smart boards, we have to be able to replace any of the old cabling, because as we progress and add new things to that building, we're going to have to go and jerk it all out anyway.
So in short, LW, there were items in the original project that we pulled out and put into this alternate that had to do with technology upgrades to the building, like wiring between the projector and the teacher's desk, and or new plates for the projector mounts. So they were just items that we identified that would be that we could break out of the original project and just kind of lump into a technology upgrade, so that you all could look at that and decide whether you wanted to upgrade the technology for the building with all this new wiring and these upgrades for some of the classrooms. That's why the numbers increased.
The first one was just to run wire from room to room. Now this is the everything within the room that has to be now changed in terms of all the cabling that's coming from that main wire coming in, then to go to everything else. I mean, I would make a recommendation that I think it's worth the additional $500,000. I know that makes our total budget go to $6.5 million. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that we want to be good stewards of what we've been given. We wouldn't have $20 million worth of bonding potential if it wasn't for the nickel. But I think we would do the wrong thing if we don't finish this building. And I think there's been boards that sit here before that would have loved to have finished the building and not had to piecemeal it and do a little bit here and a little bit there. So I would definitely not recommend BG1, which is the first option. I would reluctantly recommend number 2, but I wholeheartedly support doing all the alternates 1 through 9. And that's my recommendation to you all.
Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
You think we stop, deny them, they'll come down again, like we did this time?
And you're approving the revised BG1 with that as well? Okay. Well, if we had time to wait, you know, the issue is that we had a couple more of those units go down before winter was out. We're probably gonna start the fall with some fans and portable air conditioning units just to get through the fall. So this system is on life support at best, and it's been shot back to life about 3 times. So we don't have the luxury to wait, I don't believe. So that's just to answer your question, LW. So.
All in favor? Any opposed? Takes care of A. Okay, so we will approve the agreement for special inspection agency for the BG 18-239 Estill Springs renovation project.
And can we do both of those together, Roland? Is there any reason, because one of them is special inspections, one of them is
Testing and balancing.
testing and balancing, it's for the same BG one?
That's up to you all. It is for the same BG, it's for the same project.
It's for
the
Estill
Estill
Springs.
Springs project. And, did we send you copies of this, or is this?
I sent them late in the day. I can
Okay.
pass them out though.
I think Peter was bringing the original hard copies. I did send this to you all by email, and I apologize for so many things coming to you by email today, but again, you gotta remember that this only bid on Tuesday. And we're trying to meet the deadline for selling bonds. That's why Mark is here, because I think you all would like to have this money in your account by July 1. It does have some beneficial things to go with that money being in your account.
So you're gonna see 2 things here. One is testing and balancing, and one is special inspections. They're pretty easy to understand. The testing and balancing is, let me start with the special inspections. The special inspections is basically any concrete structural items in the building, asphalt that's going down, storm sewers that are getting installed, and ditches that need to be checked for the fill and stuff. The special inspector is someone that's going to be on site, looking at that installation, writing reports, and as far as the structural items go, it's required by the building code, okay, under Chapter 17, that you have a special inspector for that stuff. We always solicit for 3 proposals. We do this for just about every project that has something structural going on with it. And you can see that in the summary that CSI, Geotechnology, and S&ME are the 3 companies that we solicited proposals from. Geotechnology did not provide a proposal. CSI was low on their proposal, and so we are recommending that CSI be selected based on their lower price. Okay, that's the special inspections. Now, the testing and balancing, same sort of process. Solicit 3 proposals from 3 different companies. And the testing and balancing, if I can do this justice, is basically where they kind of measure the airflow coming out of the duct system after it's installed in each room, and make sure that it's appropriate to what Carrie's design is for the HVAC system, okay? And so it's a checks and balances of the HVAC system when the project is complete, to make sure that the spaces are receiving the correct CFM.
Code compliant. Nice.
And code compliant, thank you. And so solicited 3 proposals there, and A&H Balance Company would be the recommendation for you to take them based on their lowest cost.
You all have worked with both of these companies, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Now, I'm looking here at included services, and they're a little bit different. Are they all pretty much doing the same thing?
Yes.
There was just a no cost add for alternate number 1 on A&H.
Yeah,
And then
we
there's an
did.
additional cost for the next one, thermal balance added an additional cost if alternate number 1 was accepted.
And that was to test the well field or something?
Mm-hmm.
Because the TV or whatever that is, they do the well field, so they're both testing the well field.
Yes, yes.
And until that thing is right, they don't sign off on it. So the contractor does not get out there until it is performing at the level that it should be performing.
That's correct.
Previous question, I'd recommend 2 separate motions on this. 2 separate bids.
Okay, that's fine. So I think consider F first, special inspections. I'd recommend that you go with CSI for the special inspections in F.
And
We
this
have a
is
motion?
all required, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the building code, you know, chapter 17 of the building code requires you to have any concrete that's going to be used structurally to be tested, structural steel. There is some construction and material testing that's not required that we do like to add in there as well, just for the sake of we repeatedly have issues with it, and so we like to make sure that it gets installed correctly and that there's a report that is generated by this company that we can have in the file to make
So
sure.
this is kind of like a construction manual for a small part of this job.
Small, yes, yeah, yep, very well put, yeah, for a small part of it.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept
CSI.
CSO.
CSO.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Now to
Which would be G.
G for testing and balance.
My recommendation would be that you all would go with A&H Balancing Company for testing and balancing.
Do we have a motion? Okay. We have a motion to accept A&H balance. Do we have a second? W. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Are we to H?
Yes. That's good.
Okay. So we're going to consider adoption of a reimbursement resolution.
Yeah, and this one's easy. Mark's with us tonight, and he can explain this if you need further explanation, but right now, we've spent a lot of money on design and everything up front. What this resolution does is allow the board to reimburse the general fund or whatever money we've used up to this point. We can reimburse it once the bonds are sold and that money hits our accounts. We can reimburse ourselves, and you definitely want to do that. You don't want to leave any general fund money sitting out there that we've used. So, Mark, anything to add to that?
It also covers you in case there are any actual construction costs that come up, because construction will probably begin before we close the bond issue. So if there were any bills that came due before you had your funds in hand, you could pay it and then pay yourself back. Doesn't obligate you to do anything, just gives you the ability to do it.
Now, we've got a couple of big lead items on here that we're probably gonna have to purchase even before contractors end up on the job site, I think, and some of those had 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, Jeff. We're with the approvals you've made, we're gonna get with these contractors and really start seeing what it looks like to get them out here as soon as school's out, especially on Estill Springs for this HVAC renovation, and there are some big ticket items that need to be purchased up front.
So I recommend we approve the resolution.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving along to I, KEDC grant approval. You added, did you add that?
No, it goes,
No, I'm sorry.
that goes under consent. The
Oh, I'm
KEDC.
sorry.
That's okay.
Here,
Yeah,
okay. Got ahead of myself.
no, it's okay. So
So we're,
down
okay.
for
We're on 4 now. Sorry to confuse everybody. We're going to consider approval of a resolution authorizing a contract rent and lease with the School District Finance Corporation.
This is sort of funny how all this works with bonding. We're basically going to have to lease the building to the finance corporation in order to be able to sell the bonds, and you are the finance corporation. So the first part of that is, if you've not set in on a construction project before, this is one of those nuances that we have to go through. So Mark, real quick, if you just lead us through it.
Yeah, so basically, the school district itself is not allowed to enter into long-term debt on its own, right? So you can't do anything longer that obligates you longer than the end of a fiscal year. So we've created this, I say this way predates me. They created a mechanism where the School District Finance Corporation will actually issue the bonds, lease the building back to the school district for payments exactly equal to the bond payments. So what you're going to do tonight, you'll approve a bond resolution as the School District Finance Corporation, which is you guys. So in a minute, you're going to adjourn or go into recess, call to order the School District Finance Corporation, vote on the bond resolution and the contract lease and option with the school district, approve that, adjourn that meeting, call the board back to order, and approve the resolution and the contract and lease for the school board. It's very confusing, but that's kind of how school bond finance has to work.
And you don't get paid for being on the finance corporation, by the way, so you'll just have to take your $75 payment for the board meeting.
And then Jeff and Rhonda get to sign this stack of papers at Flex Talk.
You'll have to come back in the morning, because we won't get them signed in about 30 minutes' time.
The one thing I will point out, the bond resolution itself authorizes up to $6,445,000. When those documents were drafted, we had no idea which BG ones you're going to accept. Because you accepted the Riddell roof bid, the actual bond issue that we'll go out with will be slightly smaller than that, $6,395,000 instead of the $6,445,000 that it authorizes. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And it's for both projects. One bond issue will cover both the roof project and the system.
So I recommend the resolution.
I make a motion that we accept the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So can I make a motion to adjourn temporarily?
You just-
You're go into recess.
Okay,
You
we're
just
just going to
go
recess. Okay.
And you don't have to have a motion to go into
Okay,
recess.
so we're going to go into recess.
And then you'll call to order the school district finance board.
And I've got, did you give those to me, Felicia, or the copies? They were laying here, weren't they? You all have one, or one laying underneath it.
I'm
It's a
looking
one
for
single sheet.
it.
It's with your standard invoice. So it's this
I
sheet
think I
here.
just stuck them. Oh, I wrote on it.
There it is. That's it, right here. That's it.
So I'm going to call to order the Estill County School District Finance Corporation.
Good deal.
Okay, so we have consider approval of a resolution of the Estill County School District Finance Corporation and advertising for bond sale and all other documents in connection with the bond issue.
Mark, very straightforward. You're just advertising for the bond sale. Mark, and as the physical agent with the Hillard Lines. They will carry through with all the paperwork and necessary advertisements to make that bond sale happen. Our goal is to have that bond sale completed and the money hit the school accounts before July 1.
We're currently scheduled to actually sell the bonds, which is when we'll lock in your interest rate on June 5th. So we'll know your rate on the 5th, and we're scheduled to close on the 21st or 22nd, which is the day that you'll actually get your money. So we tried to get it, you know, as far ahead of the end of the year as possible for Andy. So it'll be, yeah, it should be basically the last week of June when you have all your funds.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution of the Finance Corporation and advertise for sale of bonds and other documents with the bond issue.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
We do need a motion to adjourn this meeting, yes.
I make a motion, we adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You want to stay here all night? All in favor? Any opposed? So now we're back to Tech Center.
Yes, item 6. We're moving right along. I'm proud.
Oh, we're back into, okay.
Still got a
Yeah.
whole nother page. Backside.
I'm calling us back into session. And now we will move forward with the Estill County Technical Center.
Okay, item A is just an update over the last couple of days, and Rhonda and Donna and myself, along with Dickie, went to Frankfurt on Tuesday to meet with LRC and Senate leadership concerning the Career and Technical Center. As you know, the funding for operations did not come about in this legislative session, and with everything that was going on in the legislature, I guess it's sort of understandable how that got pushed to the back. But now that it's pushed to the back, we really have to now start being very insistent on the funding for operations for this facility. I think we've been very clear from day one that the Estill County School System will build the facility. We'll go on the hook for the bonding to build the facility and make sure that we have a first-class facility to offer career and technical education to our students and students in Powell County. And as a matter of fact, even students in Lee, Madison, wherever they may want to come from, if they want to attend classes in this facility, we're open to any and all students that want to access these programs. And of course, it'll be based on need and be based on space. But that's what it takes to be an area technology center. And there's a lot of interest out there, especially in a couple of the programs that we're planning on offering, which is one of them being a diesel mechanics program, which very few career tech centers have that, and it's very much in high demand. And also an engineering and technology program that's going to be in high demand as well. So a lot of opportunities out there, not just for our kids, but kids all in this area. So we had a very positive meeting, I think, with Senate leadership. Senator Stivers, of course, is on board with this project. Again, now that they've got the ability to get all these other things, it's past them, and this is on their plate, and it's the only thing on their plate right now that we're dealing with. I think there's an understanding that funding this project is very important to not just the economic development of Estill County, but also the economic development of our entire area and workforce development as well. So that was a very positive meeting. Jim Codell, our construction manager, was there as well. And so we had a really positive meeting with that. And then we turned around on Wednesday. Mr. Burkhart and myself went back to Frankfurt to meet with workforce development. And that meeting was very positive as well. As you know, in the grant process, our physical court has been really supportive of us, but we all know that there are some financial liabilities right now that they're facing that has impacted their contribution to this facility, which originally started out at $1 million and then went to $500,000. And even now, they're still having issues. I think it's been pretty clearly documented in terms of what the finances are of the county government. So we met with the board, the industrial board, on, and I want to make sure that I tell exactly who we met with. We met with the Estill County Economic Development Board on that same Tuesday that when I got back, and they also understand that they want to help us. They just can't help us with actual dollars. So you all can know that in that meeting, they have pledged an in-kind commitment to us for the relocation of a bus garage facility in order to move that facility to allow the Career Tech Center to be built between the high school and the middle school, which will make some changes. I know Roland's got some information. I know LW had asked for information about how much that will save by moving the bus garage and just some different things. But the area is off Brown Duck Drive, and they will help with not only the property, which is about 7 or 8 acres, but they will also help in the actual grading of that property and some of the grade work. So they're promising in-kind match here. So that just tells us that the Economic Development Board is very interested in trying to help the school system move this forward. It's very important to our community, plain and simple. So I don't think there's no community partners that's not on board. The workforce cabinet, they're still a little weary about the fact that we're dependent on the legislature to fund this moving forward, but the right people are talking.
When will we know if they're gonna fund the staff?
We now have a commitment from Senator Stivers and his name on a letter that they understand that this has to happen. And they are committed, based on our meeting, to opening up the budget in January, which is not unprecedented. They open up the budget a lot of times in the mid-session, but addressing this in the mid-year session next January. So, and his letter is there. He's contacted, the governor has been contacted as well. I've not heard directly from the governor myself, but I've been told the governor is very aware of this situation and is expressed support for anything that deals with workforce development. Of course, that's been one of their big pushes. So I can't tell you that the governor said, yes, he's going to push for this, but he is aware and he's not anti at this point either. His office was contacted really before the legislative session was complete, but by that time the governor's budget had already moved forward as well, his proposed budget. So the contact with him was not in a timely manner that it should have been. So I really feel well, you all saw in some of my conversations with you all when I talked to you all, I was sort of down about it. I was worried about it. I feel a whole lot better about it right now, especially with what's happened in the last 48 to 64 hours in terms of how, we're moving forward. So I feel good that it's going to happen.
Mr. Sutter, can you just make clear to everyone that this doesn't have anything to do with the grant money? That is secured. It has to do with the operations of the building. Yes,
the grant money is secured. The $5.7 million, we have a signed contract with Workforce Development that commits them to that $5.7 million as long as we meet the benchmarks that's within that. Now, that contract's going to have to be amended because it had been amended once that our portion was $4.2 million after we had changed the commitment of the local court from $1 million to $500,000. And we'll have to amend it again to say that the school system's support will now be $4.7 million, which is the total construction cost or the total match of that project. So that is a very simple fix through an addendum to the contract. We have the money now that the nickel is passed in order to do that. We're still pursuing grant funding, and we still feel that there's additional grant funding that can come down the line, which will only mean that in the future we'll be able to do more construction projects and not commit all of our bonding potential to this facility. So there's a lot of avenues there to still have money, but our goal, or our commitment on our part is to build the facility. The commitment on the state's part will be to fund the operations. And that's what the hangup is right now. But as I said, I think now workforce, KDE, Senate leadership, the LRC, they're all on board. They know now exactly what it is that we need.
Yeah, but do we agree to go forward and spend this money without it in stone? I mean, that's a question we have to ask. Do we gamble with the taxpayers' money? And I mean, we've seen before with politicians, and I don't know these people personally, but sometimes they tell you one thing and a week later they've got a different opinion, or something comes up, I mean, with the way the budget's been. So I don't know.
I know exactly, and that thought is out there. It concerns me too, but after sitting in that meeting on
I've been the
Tuesday.
biggest fan of this
I know.
trade center, or trade school.
Well, in reality, I mean, I think moving forward, if we're not able to obtain the additional grant funding, then Donna brought up several meetings ago that we may have to phase this project in, especially now with considering moving the bus garage. We have the money to move the bus garage. That's something that's tangible that we can do, and we would do possibly do no matter what, whether that building was ever built or not. Moving that bus garage is going to be able to deal with traffic flow and safety concerns that we've got now, so we can eliminate that.
But that was also a lot of the reason that we agreed to put the trade school at this location, was to incorporate the bus garage without moving buses in and out, you know.
And it took up so much room that then we had to question about where do we park buses? Do we lose the practice field to do that? And we're pretty much landlocked there anyway. So when you start moving the practice fields, you're going to lose the middle school field house that's there by that property now to build that career tech center. So, you know, those are things that once we got to looking at it, you don't have the space to park those 30 buses there after you build that building, and the traffic flow that's involved with that. So I think Donna brought up a good point a few weeks ago that by phasing this, the first phase of that would be the redesign of all the driveways, the work that goes along with providing the correct layers and foundations for the Career Tech Center, getting that property to where you could build it. It would be basically a site package that could involve all of the parking, all of the changes in driveways and all that. And by the time you completed that first phase, which is something we need regardless of whether the building is built, then we're going to be in January. At that point in time, we're going to know. And then simply at that point in time, you have phase 2 of the Career Tech Center, which would mean that you're going to move forward with building the facility. So we could be looking, and they understand, we could be looking at delaying the opening of this facility to 21. So there is an avenue there by which we're going to know about the funding, especially if we go about in phases.
But you also have on here the approval for the initial BG1 for the bus garage. Mm-hmm. You know, you've said before, if they don't fund operations, we can't afford this building.
Well, we could afford the building, but we can't afford to operate it, yes.
So if they're not gonna fund it, if something happens, and I hope it doesn't, but if something happens that they say, no, we're not funding that anymore, then this deal's dead in the water. So how can we do that and talk about building a bus garage on a different site? Because if this ends up being dead in the water, we need to consider, we've got other options to weigh, maybe building the bus garage there and just moving it and rebuilding it, and you can still redo the traffic if you're not gonna build a trade school.
The one thing you have to remember about the bus garage is it's about 30 years old, and the lifts that are in it that we raise the buses on, you can't even get parts for anymore. So it's not that we're
I'm not
trying to
saying
do
we
away
don't
with
need
that.
to build a bus garage, I'm just saying we might not, if they don't fund operations, we might not need to do it now, and then we might reconsider where to put it if they don't fund this and this is dead in the water. I mean, instead of moving everything out someplace else. And I hope it's not, but I just don't know that I can count on Congress to.
Well, I think if you were going to build a new bus garage facility, you would not build it back on the campus where it's at now. I think when that bus garage was built there, of course, at the time we didn't have the middle school. I don't think everybody realized the traffic, some of the traffic problems and things that we have that exist now because of it being there. It's not the fact that the board did anything wrong back at that time. It's just the fact that that time, that's the property we had.
We outgrew it.
And we've outgrown the campus with the building of the middle school, and then after the building of the middle school, you had baseball field and softball field and the need for practice areas and everything else. And so with the bus garage there, we just sort of created a campus that's really tight and creates some traffic problems. So, I mean, in terms of building the bus garage, I feel very confident that, especially now with the donation of property that's not going to cost you anything, I think that I would have no problem recommending we build a new bus garage facility that's off that campus. I understand reservations about moving forward with the Career Tech Center, but we're sort of tapping the brakes on that anyway. If you decide to build a bus garage, you're going to have to tap the brakes on the Career Tech Center. We can't move forward with designing it because, bottom line, the bus garage is in the way. So it's going to give you the time that you're talking about to make a decision to see. My next goal, LW, is to see the draft legislation that will go before the House and Senate in January. And I know that in talking to LRC, the contact at LRC, I think that's the direction they're moving in. They're going to go ahead and draft the language right now for the amendment to the budget, which would be to make Estill County the 54th Career and Technical Center, operated by KDE, and they would put the amounts to that. As we speak right now, today, they were working at KDE to give the operational amounts based on KDE formulas. So that's the first time that's happened, that KDE is now putting numbers to this. We have numbers about what we think it's going to cost. So I think you're going to see by August, September at the latest, you're going to see a draft of what that legislation is going to look like. And if we've got a draft of the legislation that's going to go there with support of the governor and Senate leadership, you know, I have no qualms about it at that point in time. I think it is going to happen. And I've made it very clear to our contact there that we need to see that draft. Workforce wants to see that draft because they've got the same reservation you've got. So they still want to see that draft, and they want to see that legislation that says, hey, Estill County is the 54th Area Technology Center. So I think if we approve the bus garage, we need a new bus garage anyway. And then by August or September, we're going to see the draft legislation. At that point in time, you know, we're going to want to move that bus garage before we do anything major there because of the new design of the building. So I feel confident that we need a new bus garage. It doesn't hurt us to go ahead and do that. And then by the time we get that designed and start moving forward, you're looking at late fall probably on construction of a bus garage. They could move forward with some site plans, you know, for the Career Tech Center, which we've been sort of talking about. But in terms of just the total design of the building, we're going to tap the brakes a little bit. Y'all agree?
Yeah, I think if you're exploring this idea of phasing, the first phase is obviously to get the bus garage out and away from that site, so you can dedicate the site to this area technology center. That would be sort of the first phase. A second phase would be to incorporate a site plan, and you could do an early site package for the tech center, where we could be far enough along in the design with the tech center to go ahead and know our foundations and footings were going, and start doing excavations and doing a foundation design. So yeah, we could definitely phase it. That's definitely an option, and that's kind of how that would work.
So I guess we are at B, the consideration approval of initial BG1. I think I've said, I think we need a new bus garage regardless of what happens with the Career Tech Center. And my recommendation would be that we move forward with the BG1 for a new bus garage and continue to work with the Estill Development Corporation on the piece of property that they have said that they would donate to us for moving that. And it would be less than a mile and a half from where it's located right now at the industrial park.
Okay, do we have a motion to consider approval for initial BG1 for the new bus garage as part of phase 1 for the technical center?
I make a motion that we approve a BG1 as phase 1 for the technology center.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
If it's okay, at this point in time, I would like to add another item because of your action on B. Let's call that B1, Felicia. So B2 would be that you all would need to advertise for architectural services to design a new bus garage facility. Ross Tarn is not our architect at this point in time for that project. They provided us with some preliminary drawings and some estimates, but the actual, because it is a project that's over $1.5 million, KDE requires a new contract for architectural services. We can advertise for that in the paper here over the next few weeks, and then probably by June we can select an architect. I think we can get the advertising deadlines and everything in place, but you just cannot appoint your current architect. You have to submit or ask for proposals. So the recommended motion would be that we advertise for architectural services to design a new bus garage facility, and that's my recommendation.
Do we have a motion to advertise for architectural services?
I make a motion that we advertise for architectural services.
We have a motion. I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
And LW, so you'll know, I will make it a priority that we get a piece of legislation that's drafted in plenty of time.
I mean, I know you will, but
Well,
like I said,
I understand, but I want you to know I'll work hard to make sure that we get that, and I'll be working with LRC to make sure that once we see that, then we can feel a lot more comfortable, and everybody can feel more comfortable.
I've been pushing for a tech center since I was on the board. It's just, don't trust me.
So we're at C. Consider approval of the technical center schematic design pending KDE approval.
Well, I think now that the bus garage is going to be moved, that allows the schematic design of the Career Tech Center to move forward. It just sort of lets them, right now, I think we've tapped the brakes because the bus garage has got to be out of there before we can start a lot of the site work and those types of things. So it's going to be one of those things that's going to delay just a little bit, but I think it would help that if we have a schematic design that we have talked about, and this was talked about in committee and the steering committee that met, then I think they do need a little bit of comfort in knowing that we're moving forward with a specific schematic design. And I know you had some information that LW had asked you to bring back last time, Roland, so.
Yeah, so LW, you had asked us for, because of the design being more compact, and, you know, we were identifying some savings that would be generated from the more compact design, as well as not having to meet that existing bus garage elevation. And so we put some pencil to paper here for you and came up with close to $300,000 in savings that we've identified. Now, I do want to say this though. About $120,000 of that was from the square footage reduction. However, we did end up adding that square footage into the mechanical room, okay? And the reason we did that was so that we could put the makeup air unit in there. So that savings, that $300,000 number savings, has the makeup air unit going on the roof and the mechanical room smaller, okay? Now, I say that, I'm still going to be a big driver for putting the makeup air unit inside the mechanical room, just because I feel like it's better for the building, it's easier on maintenance, it's easier to get to, it's just better for the facility, okay, for the longevity of the facility. The second item I want to point out to you is the pavement, okay, and that has to do with the site work. Now, we removed a lot of the pavement that was adjacent to the back of the Area Technology Center where the bus garage is right now. We had a lot of pavement back there. We took that out, all right? And so there's an inherent savings there for removing that pavement. However, there have also been comments about adding a parking lot back there for teachers or staff or anything. Now, as we proceed with the design, you know, we can make that pavement an alternate, much like you looked at tonight, okay, with these other alternates, so that it could be a separate line item. We can design it that way, and then you can choose whether or not to build that. So I just wanted to point out those two items. The other items were like the retaining wall that we were talking about before. There was some savings in that. The elevator, the additional stairs, and the additional restrooms. Okay, so all in all, with all those savings in there, we're at about a $300,000 savings on that, okay?
And that's with the air unit on the roof.
That's with the air unit on the roof,
If you
yes.
put it down the mechanical room, then it's gonna be.
It's it's about $120,000 is what we allocated for that square footage. Yeah. And we'll know more. I mean, you have to understand that, you know, at this stage, estimating is kind of based on dollars per square foot. We don't have, you know, a whole lot of detail to go on. Now, when we're at design development, after we've submerged ourselves into the design a little more, we'll have more detail and better numbers, all right? And we may end up being able to pull the outside air unit inside the building. I just don't have enough at this point to know for sure, but based on the overall calculation, that's you know, I'm comfortable kind of saying that, okay?
So this basically cleans the building up. It takes away all the little funky nuances that was created by the bus garage. It puts us on 2 straight floors, makes the elevations meet up with the high school better, which creates a more sleek design for the crosswalk and meeting the levels of the high school as well. So it cleans up a lot of the little issues that we felt that we had when we met the first time. in that steering committee meeting. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is a fair statement, Mr. Saylor. It's definitely it's going to be an easier building to get around. Before we got this elevator in the middle and staircases and just trying to meet the existing elevations that were being defined by that bus garage, we're posing some challenges in the design. And so by removing the bus garage, we're able to make a more compact building that's more efficient, the circulation's more efficient, the spaces are laid out a lot better.
Any questions?
And once again, I just want to point out to everyone that we took a lot of time and considered a lot of different places to build the center. We looked in and around the entire campus there, and that spot actually made the most sense to join that in with the high school. So it wasn't that that's where we set out to put it, that just made the most sense for all of us. And there was a lot of places to attach it to the school, but there were underlying drainage systems and different reasons why we couldn't attach it at another place, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's, of all the sites, don't forget that you looked at as well during the site selection
Yes.
process.
I've had a lot of people question me about why there, and there was a lot of time spent into reviewing those areas.
Yeah, we've looked at putting the building on the left side of the high school, behind the high school, in the area of the practice field, and it's just difficult to get to, and/or you lose that connectivity with the high school that you're looking for, and so I really feel like this is the best location for the building. Yeah.
That said, my recommendation would be that we approve the schematic design for the Career Tech Center.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and approve the schematic design at this time.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We are now at item 7. Discussion of our 2018-2019 school resource officer contract.
This was discussed at your last meeting, and of course, this is to determine whether or not you want to continue to move forward with the SRO agreement, or how you want to approach law enforcement in terms of what type of law enforcement we have on our campuses. Because we are talking about a specific individual here, so I don't know if there's things that you all want to discuss. Again, I know last time we moved this item to after executive session. I don't know if you all have any other things you want to discuss before you make a decision on this, or if you are ready to make a decision on this. We have to give a 30-day notice to the city of Ravenna if we want to continue in this agreement. So that means this is your
It's actually a 30-day notice if you want to terminate the agreement.
terminate, yeah.
It'll automatically renew.
It renews if you don't. And we're at May, so July 1, I would think, would be a renewal moving into the new year.
Did you say, what date? I'm sorry, what did you say?
July 1.
July 1, okay.
Notification by.
You have to notify them by June 1, before June 1, if you want to terminate, or it's automatically renewed. So I don't know if y'all want to discuss it here, or if you're ready to make a decision, or if you want to discuss further in executive session before you do that.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Safe trip home.
Thank you for coming.
You'll have a
We'll talk in
preference?
the morning. I'll be here early.
Okay.
Mr. Saylor, First of all, I would like to say that I would like to discuss it in closed session, but Mr. Gross is here, and I didn't know if he had something that he wanted to address or say to us.
Oh, that's fine. If, Officer Gross, if there's something you want to address to the board about this.
It's been my pleasure working with y'all, and I would look forward to continue doing this. And I think it's been a very productive agreement. I kind of pulled the numbers the other day, and, I added maybe like 300 something, I don't know if you want to call it calls or whatever, for a school year. It's not on Ravenna's time, that's on your all's time. So.
We want to just move it down the agenda then. Is everybody in agreement with Donna? We'll just move it down.
Okay. Move it to after close, or to closed session.
Yes, we can move it to after the closed session. Before adjournment.
Okay, we're now at 8, to approve the 2018-2019 district staffing allocation revisions.
And if you don't care, since A and B are related,
Okay.
and they sort of go together, we'll just, the district and school staff, and you approved these back in February and March so we could get allocations out. Since that time, there's been a couple things that have just creeped up that I wanted to try to make a change on. The first one is with the district staffing plan. We had originally, under item number 4 there on the first page, is the Estill County Success Academy. That principal's job was tied also to the high school as an assistant principal at the high school. And I just think because of the delineation of duties there and the fact that whether or not we have a true principal at the Success Academy, or whether that person is the assistant principal at the high school, that line becomes blurred sometimes. And I just think in order to run a successful alternative program, I believe that principal needs to be solely dedicated to that school. And of course, I'm the one that came to you and asked you to combine them, and I told you I would always, if it was a mistake, I'd own it. And I think that was a mistake. That was something new. We thought we could solve a couple of issues with that, and it's just not turned out the way that I envisioned that it should be. I think that person has to be and it's not because of the person that was in that job. This is just because I put that person in a no-win situation because of the way that was arranged. So I would ask for you to just remove the assistant principal at the high school from that duty. And in doing that, the salary schedule will also reflect that there was a $5,000 stipend that went with that to allow that person to work high school events and some of the different things. That stipend would no longer be needed, so that would be removed from the salary schedule. The other part of that is that we revamped our maintenance department. As you know, Mr. Burkhart no longer has the authority in maintenance or anything to do with custodians. So it's a little bit difficult to ask a classified person to be in charge of other classified people. We've tried to put some things in place. There's been some rifts among just normal rifts that one classified person doesn't feel like another classified person should be telling them what to do. So that puts our custodians in a bad place. Who's in charge of our custodians? And we removed those 2 years ago. We took the custodians and put them in district, but at that time you had Mr. Ballard in charge. We no longer have that. We actually, in moving Mr. Ballard, so that you'll know, we show a reduction of one certified central office person, But with Mr. Ballard, for instance, you even lost some ability there because of the way that we've changed the structure of the salary of that individual. So there was some savings to the general fund budget in the way that has been done as well. So long story short, who's in charge of the custodians? Right now, it's really difficult. I don't know if anybody's in charge. And we got to have a certified person in charge. That needs to be the principals, because ultimately I can hold the principals accountable for the cleanliness of our buildings. And we've got a couple of our buildings, they are spotless. We've got a couple of our buildings that, quite frankly, need some work. Not being critical. It's just the fact that when nobody's in charge, when the cat's away, the mice will play. Bottom line. So we need to change that, and I'm asking you to move the custodians back under the direction of the school council and under the direction of the school principal. So those two changes is what I'm asking for you to do. It's at no cost to the board. It's just a matter of making sure that we have somebody in authority in both the principalship at the Success Academy and leading our custodial staff at our schools. So that would be my recommendation, to change both of those policies that show those revisions.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Is that the SOT base?
Yes, see.
Your school SOT base request next on the agenda.
I think to make it easier for everybody to understand, if you turn to the last page of that document, and you've seen this chart now about 3 times. And technically, as we move forward, we have always went on this chart. This, from day one, back in February, when you saw this chart, it's changed very little. See you all. It's changed very little with the reduction of 5.5 instructors. And it was just, what's changed a little bit is how these individuals are paid, whether it's a SBDM allocation or a Title I allocation or grants, district positions that's in your district staffing policy, other, which is also, a lot of that is in Title I or grants as well, and then the add-ons. And there's only 2 schools that have add-ons, and that's the high school and the middle school, because when you're offering programs, different programs at those levels, you've got to have additional teachers. You can't go just on a per pupil basis, because if you do that, you're not going to have art, you're not going to have music, you're not going to have PE and health, you're not going to have foreign language. So in order to make that happen, the schools have to ask you for those add-ons. Everything else is paid for by either their SBDM allocation or a grant or already called for in the district. So everything else is paid for. So the high school had to ask for 2 positions. That's what you've got there in the front. And this allows them to create their schedule based on the number of staff that we agreed to all the way back in February. So I'm not asking you to add anything. I'm asking you, or basically the high school's coming to you tonight and identifying the 2 positions that they're getting, what they're going to be used for. Same thing at the middle school. They're identifying who those 2.8 teachers are. And remember that the high school and middle school both have been cut 1 teaching position. And the high school also lost a grant position. So they're down 2 instructors. The middle school's down 1. And then I provided for you the 3rd page of this, which is something I've not provided for you before, but I just sort of wanted you to see what is the makeup of the 30 teachers at West Irvin. Okay, it's on this sheet of paper that says they get 30. And matter of fact, by the time you add their, and that's by adding their 5 special ed people. So what's the makeup? And that tells you they've got 7 3rd grade teachers, 7 4th grade teachers, 7 5th grade teachers, 5 special ed. They have PE, music, an interventionist, and a reading specialist. Estill Springs, they've got 29. They've got, and again, this is the alarming thing, they've got 6 kindergartens, 6 first grades. As you see, that's that decline in enrollment that we're losing a classroom each year. Bad news for West Irvin is next year, third grade, they will probably only need 6 third grades if we don't stop this trend. And we're trying right now desperately to get a count on kindergarten for next year, but we're projecting it to be no better than about 140 to 145. So that trend of losing 30 students is continuing to dog us every year. So you can see this trend could change, but they have 4 special eds, 7 others, and the reason why they've got more others is they do have 2 state grants there. The Read to Achieve and Math Achievement grants is what's added to that, and they also have an additional interventionist. We're going to be having discussions with Ms. Arvin moving forward that maybe we need to look at Title I to see if that school, because of just some of the issues they're having with RTI and some other things, we could be looking at the fact that technically if you remove those 2 state positions, Estill Springs would have 5 other, and West Irvin only has 4 other. But I want to have in-depth conversations with her. She's here tonight in terms of whether or not they should have another position. But if we do that, it'll be through grant funding. It won't be through general fund monies. And she's not even aware of that. She's hearing that for the first time tonight. But I want to be fair to our schools. I think we have to be fair in terms of making sure that they're staffed equally. And then, of course, you see South Irvin. And we've run into a little hiccup at South Irvin. There's not a big hiccup there, but we did end up having to notify 4 teachers over there because Kentucky River Foothills has not got their grant yet. They're going to get it. It's going to be June, but again, I'm one of these worry warts. What happens if it doesn't happen? So I ended up having to notify them just to let them know. I feel very confident that we're going to get the money, but
They get the other grant, though. They fund all 9.
they fund all 9. Matter of fact, that's +1. That's 1 more than we had,
They're adding another preschool.
which we had 7 when I got here 3 years ago, and that's one of the things that the board, you were on that board, LW,
Yep.
that you wanted to see more kids in preschool, and we've been able now, hopefully, to increase that by 2. So that's been a big positive. Plus what's happened at South Irvin when you've had less than 50% of those kids kindergarten ready to now upwards of 75% kindergarten ready. So that's been a big change in that program over there. So that's just for your all's information. So really see, the rest of this sheet was, but just for your information, page 3 and page 4. But I would ask in one motion that you would approve the request of Estill County High School and Estill County Middle School in line item C, and that's my recommendation. And that's no change from February.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept.
These recommendations.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So next we have the 2018-2019 salary schedules.
Not a whole lot of change, but Felicia really needs this because if we don't have this, that's for the budget. If we don't have this ready, then we have to notify every employee 45 days before the start of school what their salary will be for the coming school year. So we really need to get that. We thought we could hold off to June, and then all of a sudden Felicia got to counting days, and this was a last minute ad at the very last second that I think probably cost her some overtime of being here. She's about ready to kill me. By the way, I've worked her pretty hard here the last week and a half. But she was able to get this together for us. If you'll look at page 3, you'll see the first highlight, I believe, which is talking about stipends. That's just showing you that the $5,000 stipend for the alternative school principal is now gone. There's only one stipend, that's for South Irvin, because that principal still works at Estill Springs as well. And we sort of consider that one school. That South Irvin and Estill Springs is really one school because it's feeding into South Irvin. Those preschool kids are feeding into that. That's a change. Also, the number of days, I'm just, again, showing you that the days did not change on that, which is page 4 for the South Irvin Estill Springs Principal and Success Academy Principal. There's still the number of days. You may ask, why do you need those days for that Success Academy Principal? We do operate a summer school for students that are behind, so that person can be in charge. This is alternative programs. Summer school is a district program, so it can run through our alternative school and probably will, because we use Odyssey Ware to do that. That is the curriculum for that program, so that principal is hired extra time. Why can they not oversee it? So that's so we can have an administrator that's dedicated to that program. That's going to be the duties for those extra days that they have, which is basically those 23 days. Just a couple of changes are on the extra service supplement scale, and these are all band related. These are all positions that our band have asked for. The only way a person can be paid in this school system to work with our kids is the board has to approve those positions, but we're not funding those positions. The band boosters are funding those positions to a tune of about $5,500. And I think if they're willing to put the money up, then we are to approve the positions for them to work with those kids. We're talking about 90 kids here when push comes to shove in our band. And that's a big group of kids, and these are very specialized things. Now, I will caution you, booster clubs are going to hear me on that and say, well, we need another basketball coach, or we need somebody else helping us in soccer. You got to be careful about that one now, because when you start dealing with that, then it starts throwing off Title IX in terms of boys and girls and the amount of support that you give each. But since this is band and it's non-athletic related, these are okay, and they're paying for them. We did make a comment in there about coaching experience, and we had problems with that, which is page 5. That is a new statement in terms of how we award experience with our coaches. Page 6 of that is the extended employment schedule for classified positions. There's one change on that one. Which is you all approved last time with the retirement of a part-time person in the finance office. We need that person now to be 8 hours, especially with all the DPOs that's going to start flowing into that office to pay for construction. And also, you got to remember as well that we need that person to also be there as a backup for payroll. We've got some people we better start looking at. I think the greatest thing we can do as a school system and in a department is that when people leave, somebody better be there to replace them. And that's at all position levels. And I think putting that person up there and also giving them some duties within payroll will help us, because our payroll clerk up there is may at some point in time be retiring in the next few years. So it gives us that ability to get some extra help in payroll. And these girls that work payroll, I watch them here about every third week of the month. There's 3 or 4 of them that get together and go through timesheets and stuff. So those additional hours and some additional help there will help them. And then the only other change in the salary schedule is that we got to looking at employees that are really set and they never get a pay raise. And probably we got to looking at it, and probably 2 of our employees that's very vital to the health and safety of our kids are our nurses. And they were on a set salary schedule. They never got a pay raise. Unless the entire school district got a pay raise, they never got one. And our other classified people and people that's OTs and physical therapists, we don't have physical therapists, but we got an OT, we got speech therapists. They all get a pay raise each year. It may only be 10 cents on the hour. It's not much, but at least they're getting a pay increase where our nurses didn't. So on the very back 2 pages, or the very back page, you can see where we have added our LPN and our registered nurse, and we're not changing those scales to what they are. You know, they're going to get just a little bit of raise next year. They're going to get that 10 or 12-cent raise, but we really felt like we needed to put something in place that they could look forward to that says, hey, as you move forward in this system, you're going to be rewarded for moving forward. And so that's at very minimal cost to the board. I mean, you're talking about $1 a day for 200 days. I mean, you're talking about $400 for both individuals. But I think what it says more than anything, hey, we appreciate what you do. We recognize what you do. This is a little something to help you. By the time taxes come out of it and everything, you know, they might get a couple of dinners out, but it's worth something to them. And then there's no other changes. And I feel very confident in recommending that to you all for your approval. It's really revenue neutral by the time you consider that there was over $13,000 of extra service pay that came off there. Some of it was due to grants. Some of it was due to changing the alternative school principal. This salary schedule probably reflects a savings to the district of probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 total. So it's something you can approve and feel comfortable about.
I have a question just
Yes.
on the extracurricular. As I guess as a parent, I have a concern. But is this the norm, I guess? I don't know if that's the right word, but there to be that much difference in a middle school coach and a high school coach?
It was in my former district.
Okay.
Yes.
Could we look at that? Because
You can form a committee to look at that. I can tell you in the district I came from, our head basketball and football coaches made $11,000. Our middle school football and basketball coaches made $3,000. I'm not saying it's good, it's bad. I just think you have to realize that I think if we're going to look at an overhaul, this has been in place long before I got here, but I think if you're going to look at an overhaul of this, then I think you're going to have to put some people together, and you're going to have to put some board members, at least one in there, because anything you add to this comes directly out of the general fund. So the next thing you know, and you think, well, we raise this one 500 and we raise this one 1,000. Next thing you know, there's 60 positions on here. So you raise them 1,000 or raise them 500. Next thing you know, you're in $60,000, and it can start to become very expensive. You want to pay people for the job they do, but now I would tell you the pressure that's on a high school coach is a lot different from that's on a middle school coach. Usually middle school coaches, they take those jobs so that they can learn the craft and then they can move forward in that. This is across the state.
I just had a comment about just questioning a couple of things. The head basketball and football coach as compared to the head baseball coach at the high school is
That's norm too.
for baseball.
Yeah. The head, well, let's just say, I don't know that it's norm for it to be where we're at. But you're usually going to see a baseball or softball coach make half of what a basketball or football coach does. Again, not that you're dealing with less expertise, but the head football coach at Alabama makes more than the baseball coach at Alabama, so it's one of those things. It's more profile. It's a bigger profile sport. It's a revenue sport, whereas baseball and softball in our school district probably doesn't break even. You have non-revenue sports, revenue sports, those types of things. Middle school coaches were paid the same as the head baseball and head softball coach in my former district, high school coach. So you sort of look at it in terms of what are major sports, what are non-revenue sports, those types of things. And that's why you see a step down with golf and tennis and those types of things. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm just telling you, you will see that delineation of salaries as you move down that scale based on the profile of the sport, how high profile it is.
I guess my concern is that the impact they have on our students and our kids, and sometimes I mean, we're seeing that. So I didn't know if that's common across the state or, if that's.
Well, I tell you what we can do is, if you all are really interested in looking at that, we can gather some different salary schedules that you will see. You may see school districts that's going to pay baseball and softball around $4,500. I don't know that you're going to see more than that. You're going to see less than that. You're going to have some schools, smaller schools, they're going to pay $2,000 for a head baseball coach at the high school level. And I think it's based on your resources. And again, when you're losing revenue, you're getting ready to approve a budget right here that's down $300,000 from last year in terms of contingency. And that's because of state budget cuts. Don't let them fool you when they tell you, oh, we raised SEEK to the highest level that you have at all time. Well, yeah, you did that, but you cut instructional money, you cut PD money, you cut all grants 6.5%. So by the time you get to taking those things add up. Then you got a decline in enrollment. So we could form a committee. If you all wish to do that, I think they could make a motion for us to form a committee to explore this for the coming school year. That you approve this for now, but we explore it for that'd be the 2021 school year. And let's just start gathering some stuff. I don't care to do that. I revamped the one at Bell. It was a little better now than it was, because here you have an experience after 10 years I get an experience raise? They get 2% up to 10 years. We developed a salary schedule that coaches got a pay increase every 3 years based on longevity. And I think there's something to be said about longevity, but when you get to 10 years, that's it. That's it on the 2%. So there are some things in there to encourage coaches to stay, but I'll be the first to tell you, if your baseball coach and softball coach are complaining that they're not, and I'm not saying they are, I'm just saying this is common practice across a lot of school districts. They just don't make the same. And they're not complaining, because I'm going to tell you right now, your basketball and football coach making $7,500, I believe it is, or $7,000, put the hours to it. They're making about $2 an hour. They're, even though, so you take somebody that's making $3,000, there's not as, well, I'm not even going to say that, because now if you're a good baseball coach, you're going to be in the fall, you're going to be doing it in the spring.
Year-round.
It's year-round.
And they play like 30 games.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to say they probably make $1 an hour. So any coach out there, we're paying some assistants $1,500. That won't even cover their gas. So.
Well, and that's not what, I'm not saying go across and give everybody,
right.
But I do think that does determine, because it is a lot of time that these
right.
coaches put in, and the impact they have on our students and our kids is huge.
If you coach.
It should be,
yeah.
if you're coaching.
If you coach, you love it.
That can be positive or that can be negative.
Yeah. If you coach, you love it, and you do get what you pay for sometimes, and it does create possibility. I just tell you, you're talking about general fund budget straight out. So any change you make, and we cut a lot of positions out of this 2 years ago because there was positions that weren't being used any longer. But I'm fine with forming a committee, and we'll look at it and see what other people do, and that way you at least have a comparison to see what other people are paying. If you all want to do that, that's not hard to do. I can get with our ADs and we can do that and sort of look at some different ones and get an ideal. If we add $25,000 to it, it's still not going to be much.
Right.
It may be $200 here and $150 there. It's going to be $25,000 school district, but it may just tell our coaches that, hey, we're trying to be cognizant of the fact that we value what you do. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Matter of fact, I'm big on that. I think it would be good. It's positive for us to do that. I really do. I've coached most of my life, so it's a positive step. May not change anything. You may find out that you're paying as much as anybody else, and you're going to find out you're paying a lot more than some are paying. But we can look into it, and let's let's look into it and see what we can come up with. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So if you want to approve the salary schedule for this coming year, and then let's just come back and add E, that the board would, again, just a resolution, right? That they would direct me to form a committee and look at extra service pay. So my recommendation on D is to approve the salary schedule as presented.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
And I gladly recommend that you all would have a resolution to direct the superintendent to form a committee to look at pay schedules, extra service pay.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
And let me say one other thing on those pay schedules right there. I want schools to understand, and I want it basically for public record, that those are not positions that belong to our schools. They're not high school positions. They're not middle school positions. It's at the direction of the board and the superintendent. Once the board approves those, it's at the direction of the superintendent on who's hired in those positions. Now, at most of the time, I am going to defer that to the school, but any of these positions that's on that pay scale, there's some of those that are West Irvin positions. If I chose to do so, I have the sole authority to hire those positions, because ultimately I have the sole authority to let somebody go if they're not performing the way they should. That's district money, and school councils and principals do not have control of district money. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that. I've had to talk to a couple principals lately about that, so I don't think it's in the minutes or anything, but it's on record and by tape, okay?
Okay. So next on the agenda, we have approved 19 tentative budget.
Y'all got sort of your cheat sheet there. If you'll look at it real quick, I'll just go through it as quickly as we can. We're doing great time-wise. I mean, considering Estill Springs, we really are to get done with that.
We're missing
But,
cake.
Cake?
We're missing cake.
Listen, you don't lose 30 pounds eating cake, so it's out. Take another
Senior night.
recess to go get a Frosty at Wendy's for 50
Senior
cents.
night, we're missing cake.
We can adjourn right in the middle of it.
Real quick on your tentative budget talks. Now, remember, this is your tentative budget, which is a better estimate of what you got in January. But the contingency is $1.6 million. That's 8% of the total budget. It's down from 1.9, and I told you why. Just flat out because of the budget cuts impacted by the legislature is one, and number two is the loss of student enrollment. Approximately 50 kids this past year again. So again, that's $250,000 at a conservative rate. Revenue increase, our property tax rates, there is an increase in property. So you're going to see a slight increase by taking the compensating rate. You will see a slight increase in the property taxes collected by the school district and the interest income. Because of the recent rise in interest rates, you're going to receive more interest income. And we're going to draw interest on the $6.5 million from the bond sale, which is also going to create some extra interest to the school system. We might as well get every red cent out of it that we can. Budget cuts and savings, there's 5 current teaching positions. We did reduce a district position in novice reduction coach. Property insurance is down about $20,000. I told you the factors, loss of 50 students, step and rank changes, which is something you have every year. CERS, thank goodness they did have a...
What's the step and rank change?
On your pay scale, when you look at the first page, LW, when you have somebody that goes from rank 1 or rank 2 to rank 1 or rank 3 to rank 2, plus you have people that every year they're receiving some type of raise, sometimes $500-600. So that's about a little over $100,000 every year. About 150 is what we've estimated to be this year. But you can always put about $100,000 on that every year. And then the rank changes pile on top of that. CERS, thank goodness for the last minute bill that allowed that for phase in, because if we hadn't have got that, that number would have been $260,000, I believe we estimated it. Budget cuts in terms of $150,000, that's all your cuts in terms of instructional money, PD, all those things I mentioned before, and we're looking at a Fund 2 reduction of about 5% is what we projected early on. That may not happen, but we have to plan for it right now. There has been some increase in federal money. We just don't know how the state's going to let that come down. This is just your different codes as you all look through that at the bottom. Angie, any highlights you want to add before they have any questions?
The only thing I can say is this is a tentative budget because we don't even know what our Fund 2 numbers are going to be. We're just estimating right now. So some of these, how we're paying salaries may change a little bit. There's $100,000 in there for sick leave payments. Energy costs, as you know, are going up, so that may be something we need to consider in September. And also keep in mind 2 additional days are still in the budget on the salary schedule that we're funding, so that we're not being funded from the state. Do you all have any questions or anything that you want to ask?
One last thing I'll say too is that we conservatively estimated that our rollover will be about 1.9, and we're thinking that is a conservative number. So if it rolls over at 2.1, that means that's $200,000 that can go back into contingency or can be used to give the schools back their SBDM money or whatever. So we'll see what we roll. But we didn't want to get caught like last year. We estimated it to be higher and it was lower. I'd rather have it low now and not promise you all. I don't want to promise you a bed of roses and it comes back a few violets here and there. So we feel like it's very conservative and feel like it's pretty accurate. Hopefully we won't receive any other bad news. We shouldn't.
Great. Do we need to?
I recommend you approve the tentative budget.
Do we have a motion to approve the tentative budget for 19?
I make a motion that we approve the tentative budget for 2019.
I will second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda, we have consent items.
Most of these things are pretty straightforward. You did direct me to come back with a booster club agreement. We sent one out, and then Jason, of course, was reviewing that, and we made just a couple changes of that. It was just in wording. The gist of everything did not change. Here's some additional ones with the changes. The extras. But this is from the last resolution where y'all directed me to come up with a booster club agreement that hopefully will rein in some of the stuff that we had going on. Booster clubs will have to sign this agreement. Failure to adhere to this agreement will mean that they will be dissolved and no longer be affiliated with the school system. We have to have control of these booster clubs because they can put you in a financial hurt real quick. And we all know the couple of situations we're dealing with right now. There are things in place within this agreement that will catch those things. We will make our school finance clerks, those that do finance in our schools, they will be responsible for collecting these items. And not only will they be responsible for collecting them, we're not talking about file 13 here, we're talking about collecting them and vetting the expenditures as they are. We We're requiring monthly financial statements, monthly bank statements to be turned in. No debit cards, no gift cards can be purchased to where they can make expenditures. Everything has to go through their checking account that will require 2 signatures on those checks. So, and we will notify our local banks. They have to identify who they're banking with. If they are caught with an outside account, they'll be dissolved and no longer affiliated. They have to have the one account. They can't have the one account they report on and a secret account in Richmond. They have to have their one account. And I think our parents that work and raise this money, they expect this level of scrutiny. And this stops short of bringing them into school accounts. The next step is if we can't get control of some of the things that's going on, the next step would be that you bring them into the school account, which means that they have to follow Red Book guidelines to the T. They're still having to follow a lot of the Red Book guidelines, but I don't think they want the restrictions of having to call the school finance clerk every time to get a check written and having to do all the POs and everything that will. We're trying to meet them halfway here to say we want to be a partner with you and we want to help you be successful, and we want to guard against things happening to money that shouldn't be happening. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question just about the school finance clerk at each school. And I guess my concern with the bigger schools or with the high school and the amount of clubs or the amount of sports and activities that have a booster club, is that going to be overwhelming for the school finance clerk? I guess I'm asking, is that going to be something that's doable?
It should be, because that person's paid more than the other finance clerks.
I just had a question about that because I know they're
That
already
person has,
doing a lot.
yeah, that person has more days and is on a different salary schedule than our other finance clerks. And yes, I do believe that they have the time to do it. Is it more work? Yes, it will be more work. But they're also being compensated at a rate higher than you're going to see our middle school, and it really steps down from school to school in terms of the amount of financial responsibility. And we also applied this to PTOs. We felt like that we need the same scrutiny with our PTOs. We don't want to be one of these school districts that's in the paper that the PTO treasurer just took off to the Caribbean with $30,000, you know. So this same level of scrutiny goes to all of those things. And if anybody doesn't want to do this, then we're perfectly fine with them coming to the school and saying, listen, we want an inside account. If they want to do that, we'll monitor it. We'll do it. But I think it will stop some of the things that you all have seen that's going on. Do have a fuel bid. You have one fuel bid, and it's from Hardy Oil. It's the same as it was last year. And I do think that that fuel bid is in line with what we've been doing. And that's part of consent. And then you have the grants. Let me give that to you real quick. And those grants are simply, one of them is for a reading initiative at the primary, well, it starts in primary, but it goes all the way primary through 12th grade. And the other one is for professional development. And you can take one of those and pass them. Thank you. I'm working you to death now. We're going to have to pay her $75 too to pass out papers. So that is it on the consent items, and my recommendation would be that you would approve those if there's no other questions.
This is for you, Angie, probably. On the Munis report, page 17. The big thick Munis report, I guess. The get her done trees and mowing, what did we hire somebody?
You're looking at warrants.
Trees.
That's
It wasn't
your,
mowing, it was trees.
no, that's your baseball, the bank at the baseball field that you saw that is cut down.
Okay, they trim the trees.
They
Okay.
trim
I was
trees.
just
Yeah, all the trees at Estill Springs, you know, with the new roof going on there, they're above the roof line. They trimmed all those trees.
Okay.
And we had 2 ditch lines at West Irvin that got out of control, so they came in and took care of that, and that's what those were.
I just asked.
Good deal.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
Make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Approved. Do we have any public comments?
Hearing none.
Okay. We'll need a motion to go into closed session.
We've already took care of 12 before you got here, since it
Yeah.
was
Sorry.
no action.
That's wonderful.
So I will make a motion that we go into closed session.
I like your cake.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We could have
All in
action
favor?
on
I'm gonna buy you
item
cake now.
7, but I'll let you know.
Any opposed?